Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:07. Thanks for tuning into O'Connor and Company. Coming up in 30 minutes, Carrie Sheffield of Independent Women's Voice will give us her analysis of the Virginia governor's race. Then at 7:05, Joe DeGeneva, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. And at 8:35, Sean Carney, president of 40 Days for Life, a pro-life protester got physically assaulted, brutally assaulted. It's caught on camera. And, of course, the perp got a slap on the wrist. We'll dive into that story a little bit later. Right now, it's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
And we saw the story develop over the last 5-6 days. It comes from Walter Curt. He's an independent journalist. His Substack is the WC Dispatch, and it involves two teenage girls in Fairfax County who apparently had their abortions facilitated by school personnel. It was kept secret from their parents. They were compelled to keep it secret from their parents. And school funds were used to pay for the procedures. That's it in a nutshell, isn't it, Mr. Curt?
That would be correct, Larry.
Unbelievable. And I got to tell you, when this story popped up, I'm like, well, what are the other sources? You were the source. You were the only source on this. It took several days for other media outlets to pick up on it. Nick Minnock of WJLA Channel 7 here asked Fairfax County Public Schools if they were investigating it. They said that they were. Some other news outlets are picking it up, but not many. Why do you think that is? It's a huge story.
Well, as far as I can tell, a lot of people have been trying to confirm everything that I put out, and a lot of people didn't actually go back and read the full article that I did, which actually had, all of the actual original sourcing in it. So,
yeah.
Once people actually go back and read it, then they start to realize what's really going on. So it's
starting
to gain traction.
Just so our listeners are clear, you had handwritten testimonial letters from the girls in question, right?
That's right. Yep. Yeah. The one girl from the 17-year-old that actually did go through with the procedure, I do have a handwritten and signed letter from her.
Yeah.
So, Walter, probably because some media wasn't picking up on this, we have had some stories since then, but Fairfax didn't immediately respond to this. Isn't that correct? They waited a while, and then when they did, you have found that there's some evidence out there that shows they knew about this way before what they're admitting. Isn't that correct?
That is right. So I actually did this intentionally. I let them dig themselves into a hole. So this week, when I broke the story it was on Tuesday morning that I let the story drop, and it started to gain traction. A few people, Nick Minnock picked up on it, and Laura Ingram put it on her show on Thursday evening. And FCPS actually told her that they were opening an investigation and this was horrible. Well, that's what I was waiting for, actually. So I then immediately released the recording that they were doing this, that they already knew about this back in May at a minimum, and I think even further back than that.
So they're acting now like, oh, I can't believe this happened. This is shocking. We're going to look into it. But, in fact, they've known about it for quite some time, and they were part of keeping it secret. Walter Curt is our guest, and I do want to promote his Substack so you can stay on top of this story and others that he's working on. It's called WC Dispatch. Walter, do you have any understanding of how the school district, or the school in this case, sort of funneled the funds for this and the money for this? I mean, how did they rationalize the expense for an abortion for a student?
Well, that's what I really would like to know, right? So I was told when I first got a hold of this story that there are FOIA documents showing that they have the transactions shown, but I never personally was able to see those. So that was the teachers that came to me with this story. They told me they had those documents, but I personally never seen them. So I don't know exactly how they paid for it. I assume it would have probably been some sort of, medical something. I don't know, but I'd love to see the actual documents, which I'd like to see an investigation open.
And it's one thing we have confirmed is this is not necessarily, setting aside the money for a moment, counseling a minor girl to terminate a pregnancy and kill an unborn baby without notifying the parents, in fact, participating in concealing it from the parents, that is not contrary to Fairfax County Public School policy. Is that what we've learned here?
Well, the interesting thing about their policy is it says they're supposed to make every effort to notify the parents, but it doesn't say that they must notify the parents, even though it's Virginia law.
Oh, did we lose Walter?
That was, I believe,
Walter, your phone's dropping, and we if you could, you might be like energetic, so you're pacing. But if you could get in one spot, that would be great. That happens sometimes on radio.
There we go. I might be able to hear you better now. It's probably my service.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead, Julie.
There we go. Go ahead.
Trying to understand, have you taught now? I think you either spoke to these girls or you have letters from these girls. Have you talked to these girls? I know these girls are probably older now because this happened, I think, a couple years ago. But have you talked to the parents?
No, so I did not talk to the parents. The person who brought this to me is the teacher themselves that the girls confided in. So that's where I initially got the story from. So I got the teacher that these girls went to this teacher specifically and confided in her. So that's where I got the original story.
Okay.
And this is happening at a time where we've got an election in Virginia, Walter. And Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat nominee, has not said anything about it. And in fact, I think that she stands by the policy to keep this sort of thing secret from parents. She wants teachers to be able to keep these kind of sensitive issues secret from their parents.
That would be correct. It seems to me that Abigail Spanberger is on video, and I have her on video, refusing to say she supports parental consent. And it's part of that constitutional amendment that they want to push through. And this is what they don't want to tell you. They don't want you to know that the constitutional amendment will take your parents' rights away, so you can't even know if this happens to your daughter.
Well, and now we see school districts, school boards, I should say, Fairfax County along with Loudoun County, where they want to have their meetings in secret and not let the parents participate in the meetings as well. There's a whole lot of secrecy for these public institutions that involve our children.
This seems to be. Loudoun County in the last election, the last gubernatorial election, was a big deal because of how they treated parents and whatnot. And, now that I've started to dig into Fairfax, there's a lot more to this school district. It seems to me that they've had all kinds of problems, and a lot of it has gone underreported. So, hopefully we can get further into it.
Yeah. Walter, also, it's interesting. I don't think a lot of parents understand that these schools in the entire frankly, all over the country, it's not just Northern Virginia, the wellness centers that exist in some of these public schools are pretty they're pretty developed. These are some serious wellness, they call them wellness centers, and some of the things that they're allowed to give out to kids. I would encourage parents to go to your school district's website and look at some of the things that are allowed to be given to kids. Do you think parents are sort of like, do parents really understand what these wellness centers are like, what the healthcare services are like at these public schools?
No, they intentionally obfuscate this stuff, actually. So if you, there's a really good friend of mine, he runs a group called Courage is a Habit. It's a great parent advocacy group. And they have, they're fantastic guys. Alvin Louie is the guy that runs that. And he was actually on my show the first night that the story broke, so we could talk about that. And he's got a bunch of great resources to tell you what school-based, healthcare centers are, or the wellness centers, how to avoid them, make sure you don't, if there's one in your school, what to do about it. So I point people in that direction for that sort of information.
That's great.
One last question, Walter. Has there been any further investigation into the nature of these pregnancies? In other words, if you keep these things secret from a parent and you don't disclose information, this could be exploitation, this could be molestation, it could be sexual assault. Is there anything else involved here in terms of it could also be statutory rape if this is an older person? Do we know about any of those details?
No, see, this is the deal. This is why it's a problem to conceal this kind of stuff, because now it's been a few years since this stuff happened, right? So you don't have the ability to answer those questions immediately. Well, let alone the fact that, just the biggest problem I see with the whole story is that these are medical procedures being performed on your daughters without you knowing about it. What else are they doing if they can do that?
Right.
Amen to that. Although, as we often point out, you try to get an aspirin for a kid who has a headache, and, they won't touch them. They won't do anything without a parent's consent, without signing off forms, without all these other things. But But certainly, yeah, for ending a pregnancy, it's absolutely despicable. And Walter, we really appreciate your work. And I love the way you slow rolled the story and waited for Fairfax to announce what their statement. It's very Andrew Breitbart, James O'Keefe, circa 2010 here. Well done.
Thank you, Larry, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
You bet. We'll be back in touch. Let us know as the story develops.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Let's keep our focus in Virginia. As you just heard, Abigail Spanberger supports children being able to get abortions without parental notification. She has not commented at all about this scandal out of Fairfax County, which is a violation of state law, by the way. So you would think that a woman who wants to be governor would have something to say about such an egregious story. She's given a lot of lip service. Oh, I think parents, they learned the Terry McAuliffe lesson, right? Oh, I think parents should have a say in their... Oh, really? Should they have a say in whether their grandchild is murdered? Should they...
Yeah.
They have a say in that?
And don't forget, Spanberger allies herself with Elizabeth Guzman, who's also in the Virginia legislature, and who wanted to jail parents who denied their children gender-affirming care, as they love to call it. So, I mean, she will be a nightmare for parents' rights. A nightmare.
And again, she keeps pretending like she's this J. Crew-styled suburban mom. Just a moderate, middle-of-the-road. Just like Ralph Northam was a moderate, middle-of-the-road guy who then, coldly, blood-chillingly described how to murder a baby.
Yeah.
Here's a video that has now surfaced. This is Abigail Spanberger in front of a group called the National Association of Social Workers. The question has to do with assisted suicide, which is against the law. Doctor-assisted suicide is against the law in Virginia. Should Abigail Spanberger become governor, here's what she would do.
Care institutions, most notably Catholic health institutions and systems, routinely place themselves in the middle of the doctor-patient relationship and prohibit their doctors from informing patients that medical aid in dying isn't even an option. What are your thoughts on legislation that would legalize medical aid in dying? And more generally, what are your Some religious health care institutions, most notably Catholic health institutions and systems, routinely place themselves in the middle of the doctor-patient relationship and prohibit their doctors from informing patients.
We heard it. I think it's got a double cut in there. But you heard the. By the way, the perspective of the question. Most notably, Catholic hospitals.
Yeah.
Those Catholics who actually
place
think
themselves in the way.
Yes.
Place themselves in the way.
In the way of people killing themselves,
murdering
and doctors
yes.
having to be forced to participate in killing their patients.
Or willingly doing it to people who are very vulnerable.
So that's the question. Here's Abigail Spanberger's answer. Pay close attention not just to the idea of doctor-assisted suicide, which I think is actually a ghoulish euphemism for what's really going on here, but also listen to her talk about Catholic or religious-based hospitals and doctors exercising their freedom of religion.
So I support, and I would support, legislation that legalizes the right to die with dignity of a person's choosing, and that would include allowing for medical providers to provide prescriptions for life-ending prescriptions. I oppose the ability of religious institutions to put their religious-based ideas on individuals and their healthcare choices and options. I believe that we should trust people to have relationships with their healthcare providers that lead them to make strong decisions based on their medical practices, and I do not believe that people should have the option to allow their own personal beliefs to dictate the type of medical care that they are providing their patients.
Wow.
There you go. So you will be forced, if you're a medical professional in Virginia, you will be forced to end someone's life. And this also expands to abortion. She will require Catholic hospitals. Yep. She will require Catholic hospitals and Catholic institutions. Remember when Obama sued those nice little nuns?
Yes.
This is the radical that she is.
I just want to be clear to everybody about how radical, because, and again, I don't even want to debate the idea of doctor-assisted suicide. Set it aside for a minute. I know that it's an emotional issue. I know that people have very strong feelings about it. Set it aside for a second. This is more radical than Oregon. Okay? Right. Oregon was the first in the nation to have doctor-assisted suicide. I know this personally. My father just went through this. All right? My father died earlier this year. I had to help get him set up in a care facility, all right, for his end-of-life hospice treatment. And when I was going through the document, the facility that I chose actually had language in their document saying, even though it is the law to legalize doctor-assisted suicide, that violates our conscience, it violates our values and our principles, so that will not happen at this facility, the people who owned this care facility. In Oregon, you have the right to opt out if you are a doctor or a hospital or a care facility, a private institution. Abigail Spanberger's Virginia would not allow it. Abigail Spanberger's Virginia would be more radical than Oregon when it comes to this. Oregon! Oh my God. And by the way, there's more news. We've got more information about the fundraising for Abigail Spanberger, who's propping her up. We already told you about the Chi-Com, who donated $50,000. We've got more about where she's getting all of her money, and I can tell you it's not from the Old Dominion. We'll give you more details later in the program. Right now it's 6:24.
Coming up, we're going to talk to Carrie Sheffield, a senior policy analyst at the Independent Women's Voice. She's going to give us an update on the Virginia governor's race. Keep it here at 6:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37. Thanks for tuning in on this Monday edition of O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 7:05, Joe DeGeneva, as he always does. He'll join us at that hour on a Monday. And then at 8:35, Sean Carney from 40 Days for Life. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Jules.
Good morning.
I know you know this woman because I see right after her name, Independent Women's Voice. Let's go. Carrie Sheffield, Senior Policy Analyst at that fine, august institution. Good morning, Carrie. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Pretty good. You know, I know you've been covering the Virginia election for governor. It is kind of remarkable. In any other time, this would be such a huge national story that two women are vying for this seat, which means it's guaranteed we're going to have our first woman governor. But I always get the feeling like when the media draws attention to the fact that two women are running, they're going to have to acknowledge the existence of Winsome Sears. It's like they just try to pretend she doesn't exist.
That's a great point. And by the way, she's also an immigrant and a black woman, which supposedly the left should be embracing her and lionizing her. I was thinking about that and how compare and contrast Stacey Abrams, who's lost a ton of money and siphoned a lot of money through corrupt, grants and such from the Biden administration, and also through her supposed voting rights groups, which is under investigation for fraud. She's been on the cover of all these women's magazines, and Oprah Winfrey just, could not get enough of Stacey Abrams because she's a black woman, but
Right.
It's because she's a Democrat. And so where are the just crickets about the fact that Winsome Sears is the first black woman to be lieutenant governor in the former capital of the Confederacy, Virginia? And she's nowhere. She's not on the cover of Ebony magazine, of, Jet magazine. Where's Oprah for Winsome Sears? It does make total sense because she's not towing the line of the progressive left. Yeah. And I will also add, as you note the historic nature of two women running against each other, except for one of the women can't even define what a woman is.
Well,
and that would be Abigail.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. It seems like Spanberger is really trying to avoid a lot of issues that are important to women, specifically parents' rights and also protecting women's spaces and sports. And Winsome Sears, on the other hand, she's allied herself with IWV, saying that women's sports and spaces should be preserved. That also has gotten no media. Winsome Sears is a true champion of women, whereas Spanberger either stays silent on the issue or just doesn't care about women. Why isn't Spanberger being challenged on this?
Well, we have been challenging her at Independent Women's Voice. We have purchased ads on radio to call out Spanberger because while she was in Congress, she voted against protecting women's sports, which is enormously against the will of the people. So 80% of people roughly say this is wrong, that men should not be in women's sports, men should not be in women's prisons. That's a 90% issue. 90% of people say that men should not be in women's prisons. Abigail Spanberger cares nothing about that. She was also a supporter, a co-sponsor of the so-called Equality Act, which on its face sounds good. We all want equality, right? No, because what this law would do, or this bill would do, it would obliterate the definition of sex, of female, of male and female being distinct. And so it would categorically erase what it means to be a woman and a girl. And Abigail Spanberger was the co-sponsor of that bill while in Congress.
By the way, I want to point out that Carrie Sheffield, the woman we're speaking with right now, is going to participate in a roundtable with Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears today. It's called Women Win with Winsome. That's like it's like a vocal warm up for a radio host. Say that 10 times fast. It's in Upperville, Virginia. It's 3 p.m., right, is when the doors open. So how can people get information about that, Carrie? Do you know?
Absolutely. We'd love to see any of your listeners there. The website you can go to is winsomeupperville.eventbrite.com. I'm also going to put it on Twitter, on my X.
Carrie, listen, I know that this issue in terms of defining women, keeping women's spaces safe from men, it resonates here on our show. I think it resonates with most people. Is it resonating on the campaign trail right now? I do see Winsome Sears' social media activity on it. I haven't seen many ads. I don't know if is she leading with this issue? Is it working with the voters?
She has started to, as you might have seen, she had a shakeup with her campaign manager. She recently fired her previous one. He was a pastor with, it seems, apparently zero political experience, which to me just doesn't make sense. So I'm personally glad to see that guy's out the door because she needs someone who has more experience. The new team does seem to be bringing their A game. And so I'm happy to be talking about policy on this panel today. And, it goes beyond just women's issues, in terms of her extremism. I mean, she voted against the Laken Riley Act, which would, it prevents violent illegal aliens from perpetuating further crime. She rubber stamped all of Joe Biden's horrible spending bills that caused 20% inflation, generational inflation that hurt American families. She would roll back Governor Youngkin's regulatory reforms that have reduced the price of home building in Virginia. So, I could go on, but she's an extremist.
She really is. And dressed up in a fabulous J. Crew outfit and pretending to be just pragmatic, moderate suburban mom. Yeah, just a soccer mom. All right. Carrie Sheffield, thanks for joining us, and good luck on the Women Win with Winsome roundtable today.
Thanks, Carrie.
Women win. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Quick update here on the planned press conference today for 10 a.m. President Trump will be addressing his efforts to bring law and order and safety to the streets of the District of Columbia. That includes some National Guard, some FBI agents, and maybe some more federal law enforcement officers. I had speculated when we talked about this earlier, Julie, I said, I wonder if Mayor Muriel Bowser will be part of this press conference.
Yeah.
Well, we have a hint here, a key indication here that maybe she will be. Listen to what happened yesterday on MSNBC. This is a show called The Weekend. This is with that dude that used to be with Politico with the giant afro. He was going to be the press secretary for Kamala Harris, right?
Oh, my God.
And then Jonathan Capehart, who is a radical left-wing liberal.
Former Washington Post.
They have Muriel Bowser on. Listen to the question framed by the RuPaul dude from Politico, MSNBC, trying to make this all about race. And then listen to Muriel Bowser.
Right. One of the things that we have seen over and over from the president, from his team, Stephen Miller saying it's like Baghdad in Ethiopia. They seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority black and brown. Do you see that, and what do you think that means?
I think that I have been dealing kind of with this issue for a number of years. It's kind of easy fodder on the campaign trail. But now we're talking about governing, and my job is to focus on making sure our city is running well, and people enjoy a great quality of life. And I think we're doing a really good job. We do need the federal government's help, as I mentioned, because they have an outsized influence on our criminal justice system. We need more prosecutors. We need more judges. There are other ways to help. Even we want to rebuild our jail, and there are ways.
You see what happened there?
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Suddenly sounding very reasonable, shutting down that whole, it's just because it's a black city.
By the way, and I love the fact that she said, listen, I've been covering this. That's great fodder for the campaign trail, but the election's over. Now it's tight. In other words, go ahead and call him racist when you're running against him. But if he wins, we got to work with him.
Yeah. It's great.
I don't trust her, and I think that this is, we need the federal government means pay us more money. But
all of those things she said, we need more judges, we need more prosecutors, that is law and order talking. We want to rebuild our jail.
We
want to rebuild our jail. That is not defund the police sort of rhetoric that we're hearing for her. And maybe it's because they tried that experiment, and it ended up in a lot of deaths and a lot of suffering.
Well, we'll watch at 10 a.m. We'll have the press conference. I know Derek Hunter will be talking about it this afternoon, and we'll cover it tomorrow morning. It's 6:52.